Hello and welcome to Off the Mat Wrestling. Today I'm going to be reviewing Impact Wrestling Rebellion 2021, last night's event that the world is talking about. I'll be sharing my predictions, how the matches went down, and my thoughts following the matches going forward. The first match was a triple threat between Ace Austin, the X Division champion, Josh Alexander, and TJP. Great opening triple threat with lots of intriguing and fast-paced action. Josh Alexander was my pick and he got the job done. The X Division hot potato continues. You've got a lot of really good candidates for a title contention. Rohit is still in there. All the people within this match have a stake at the title. It was very, very closely contested. But given that Josh Alexander has a very collegiate kind of style, kind of like, North American kind of stretcher, shooter kind of style, I'd like to see him have a dominant run and stop the recent hot potato between TJP and Rohit and Ace Austin, and instead have a very strong run in which he's kind of reminiscent of Doug Williams. That is what I would like to happen going forward following this match, because he's got a bit of a grounded style, a little bit different to what most of the X Division's all about, where for the most part it has been very flippy. Obviously you've had power guys like Samoa Joe in your history, but he could still fly for a heavy guy, but he also had that submission style. Doug Williams had that submission style, and I would like that kind of style to go forward with Josh Alexander's reign. Long may it continue. Next we had a promo package ahead of the second match. Strikers commentary with Violent by Design's new edition, W. Morrissey, which is formerly known as Big Cass. When he unveiled that, it really popped me, because he gave a nod to Manchester's favourite legendary misery gammon, Morrissey himself, by saying, "Heaven knows we're miserable now," but it wasn't that miserable. It was an okay standard tag stuff. Nothing that really kind of popped out at you, but Morrissey was looking dominant in the victory and also in the post-match beatdown of Willie Mack. Next up, you had the feud between Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. Another great promo package. Cardona's new gear was like a cross between Super Mario's Bowser, the Road Warriors, and the Nasty Boys. Decent storytelling in this match. It was two guys that know each other very well, and Cardona bringing the aggression against the villainous Myers. Alas, it was to no avail, and Myers won with the roster cut. I didn't see this happening, to be honest. My prediction was Matt Cardona, who has been prominently pushed so far, but it's nice to see Brian Myers actually win one for a change, so let's see what happens going forward. We had a Tony Khan promo, and he offered up Aubrey Edwards as a ref. Scott D'Amore countered that with Brian Hebner, and Tony questioned his integrity because of his last name, which makes me think, what happened to Earl Hebner in AEW, by the way, because he was like a senior referee in their inception, and it kind of seems that position's gone to Aubrey, but he's still listed as an employee. So anyway, I got a bit distracted there. There's going to be two refs in the main event. One of them is a Hebner, but it's Brian, not Earl. Next up we had Fire and Flavor versus Grace and Ellering. Jazz now has a manager's license after Fire and Flavor essentially retired her. Following her retirement, she's now supporting Grace and Ellering. So far it's been heel heavy, so will the faces get a win? Well, I reckon so, because the heels won the previous three, and you kind of want to have a little bit of momentum for the good guys. There was great heel work from Fire and Flavor, and it was focused on isolating Grace. But Ellering came in off the hot tag before being cut down herself. Ellering then hit a sit-down powerbomb for the win, and we've got new Knockout Tag Team Champions. The faces needed a win here after a heel-heavy first hour. That's exactly what happened. Next up is the match where things really started to pick up pace. After the first hour and a half, you started getting into the better matches, shall we say. I predicted Sammy Callihan to win this one. I was wrong. Simply because it was a gimmick match, and he's been very violent in hardcore stipulations. He recently battered the crap out of Eddie Edwards, and I figured that Trey and Miguel was going to go the same way. That is not what happened. I had predicted Sammy to just win in a brutalizing fashion, but no. Despite him being on a dominant tear recently, and me not seeing that ending, it did. Sammy had early advantage, and Trey hit sliced bread on the floor with a Hurricane Rana, took control, and then he did a tope suicida that proved suicidal because he yeeted himself into the rails and Sammy got out of the way. Sammy hit a powerbomb onto the production box before failing to ram Trey with it. The box is full of plunder, as Dusty would say. There was a nasty fish hook with a wrench by Sammy, just got him down for about 7 or 8, and I'd have just stayed down past 8 if I was him. He used the rail to get up Trey, chair shot to Trey, readied himself with the box. I liked how they were using the environment to get up. It was a decent touch. Too often in last man standing matches, you'll have a Deus Ex easy for me to say, Deus Ex Machina, in which, a guy will just be hit with something brutal, and then he'll just kind of stagger up and kind of be okay. I found that they really sold the brutality of this match, and by using the environment well in this last man standing match, it was excellent selling for a gimmick match. You don't often think of great selling in a gimmick match. It's often very spot heavy, but with this, just in the way that they got up after being hit by brutal things, it just really added an extra dimension to this match that you don't often see in gimmick matches. So fair play to the pair of them. Trey hit a desperation move onto the chairs at a 7. You had Sammy with a lovely body slam spot onto the table legs. That was pretty inventive. You often see people put through tables, but you don't always see the table itself utilised in different ways, and just seeing Trey's body just sprung, laid out across the table legs, that was pretty inventive. Had a pile driver onto the table by Sammy, but the table didn't break, which was pretty mental. Trey fell to the outside, stumbled back to the ground, and broke it up at a 9 count, and he was on very wobbly legs. Again, interesting way to kind of break up the 10 count. It was very inventive. They put a lot of thought into how you have a good last man standing match. It wasn't just get up after 8 every time. They utilised the environment well, whether it's falling to the outside, getting on your feet and then stumbling back again like Trey did there, or his other spots where he used the railing and he used the production box. It was really well done. Gotta give Trey a lot of credit for his selling in this match. We had a pile driver onto the ring steps by Sammy. That was absolutely brutal. But ultimately he got back up as they were sprawling. He hit a running cutter through a table and he won it. That really surprised me. I did not see Trey coming back, because each time he was struggling to get back up, and utilizing the environment to do so, and just, you know, after that 9 count, it kind of seemed that there wasn't much left for him. But then with a last chance burst of energy, just hit that running cutter through the table and like surprised the hell out of me, really. Especially given that this is in Sammy's wheelhouse. But fair play to Trey, because he sold his ass off throughout the match. And yeah, my perfect prediction score is screwed here, but I don't mind it, because Trey more than earned this victory. Next up, we had a promo from Rich Swann. He mentioned how Callis had screwed him, but now the stakes are raised. It's winner takes all, and he's in his own house. I liked the whole house analogy, you know. Obviously AEW have a lot of the gambling based terminology, like the double or nothing, all in, all out, all that kind of stuff. And by saying it was his own house and like the house will win, nice little nod to AEW in that promo from Rich. I don't think it was intentional, because he was calling Impact his house, but nonetheless, I liked it. Finn Juice and the Good Brothers had a pre-match hype package. I had Finn Juice for this one, simply because it's very early in their reign, and I think they're going to continue that relationship going forward. Finn Juice looked like a cross between hippies and Harlequins. Had these really cool kind of bandanas on, but then he also had these kind of gold and blue checkered pants. It was an interesting look, but I'm glad to see that in them, because for a lot of their early run in New Japan, they were great wrestlers, but they didn't really have a good look. Obviously between the ropes they've always been fantastic, but adding like a little bit of spark into their ring gear and a little bit of more personality definitely could take them to that next level. Particularly because they've, you know, kind of been also-rans for a lot of their time in New Japan. In the, you know, in the junior tag division, they've been okay, but they've not really stepped up to that heavyweight division. And I think using the Impact belts as a stepping stone would be good for them. Let's see how this actually works out. I predicted a strong Japanese style fight with lots of strong style. This is not what we got. Instead, it was a very traditional American style match. The story was the Good Brothers just pummeling Finn, dominating him, using cunning heel work, and just cutting the ring off. Finn rallied back. Anderson succeeded though, but then he had a leap of faith into a tag, and Finn tags Juice whilst doing his best Echo the Dolphin impression. It was just like, you know, proper Sega Mega Drive stuff. Finn Juice started to take advantage with great double team maneuvers. Gallows prevented the Doomsday device, and then the Good Brothers took back control. Unfortunately, the Good Brothers, their hubris just, you know, was a little bit too much there. They were stalling. They had the Magic Killer right in their grasp, really, but they kind of did a lot of the taunting and the stuff that they've been doing on AEW recently, of just stalling and taunting and acting like the big I am. And for all they said that, you know, losing taught them about their hubris and brought that New Japan hunger back in them, that wasn't really the story of this match. You know, the story of this match was they were being very clever, they were being very dominant, they were cutting the ring off and working strategically as a team, but then in the very end their hubris just paid them, and they, you know, paid for it. They lost to a roll-up after just stalling and getting that dominant position where they could have hit the Magic Killer, but too much stalling just really screwed them in the end. Don put over the main event in a backstage promo. His own machinations and Kenny Omega's talent brought this to the fore. Don called Rich an orphan, which a little bit cruel. It was harsh, but true. But I like that blending of reality that they brought to this, you know. And I'm sure that Rich would have okayed it, you know. As much of a slimy heel as Don Callis is playing, I don't see him taking pot shots at someone's personal life without that being okayed beforehand, you know. I don't think so anyway. Tenille Dashwood versus Deonna Purrazzo. Tenille has been doing fantastic character work recently. It's weird, she's kind of got like a heelish influencer gimmick. A very Instagram model / influencer / reality TV Z-lister. She's making it work for her though, and because of the presentation so far, I thought it would have been like a weird heel versus heel match, but as it was, Tenille fought this match as a face and did incredible. It would be a shock if Deonna lost this match, and I was right in that. Deonna did win, but it's not the match that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be sneaky versus dominant, but instead the sneaky person was Deonna. You had lots of dominance from Deonna in the early stages, but Tenille went toe to toe with power moves, despite the fact that Deonna has that size advantage. Tenille went toe to toe with the power moves. She did use a tarantula to try and wear down Deonna, which was a little bit heelish, but for the most part, she was just showing lots of rigor, lots of power, lots of tenacity from Tenille, and she really, really impressed me. She's come a long way since the days that she was Emma, where she was always a decent promo, but she's definitely come leaps and bounds in the ring since her WWE days. I think her stint in Ring of Honor might have helped in that regard, and she's really coming into her own at Impact now, and after a great showing here, I would like to see more of that kind of tenacious Tenille. That interests me more than Instagram model Tenille. I don't know whether she'll continue the gimmick and have a shift in character that is more baby. I don't know, because like I said, her presentation has been very heelish so far, but she showed in this match that she can have that fire and tenacity and just kind of a very strong style for someone so petite. Like, you know, she really impressed me in this match. You know, you had a diving crossbody for a near fall, you had Deonna fighting back and delivering a pair of Germans, but Tenille stopped it with elbows and prevented the third. You know, she was surprisingly using a lot of power moves, despite the weight disadvantage, and I figured that she'd be using more guile, but apart from the tarantula, it was just kind of babyface fire. Caleb with a K stopped Deonna's entourage, Kimberly and Susan, from running interference. Had a running storm for a really great near fall, but Kimberly braked it up by grabbing Deonna's leg and pulling her out to the outside. But, you know, it looked like that could have been the win. Deonna took back control and she won with the Queen's Gambit. So whilst my prediction for the winner of the match was very much true, the way I saw the match playing out was completely false. So I only give myself half a point for this one, really, than a full point, because Tenille showed a side of herself that I didn't even know she had, and I'm just excited to see where that goes going forward. She looked very strong, and I look forward to that rematch, because Deonna didn't really win clean. She had some heelish interference, and, you know, she scraped it by the skin of her teeth. That is not the match that I thought this was going to be, but I'm glad it was the match that it was. At the very end, you have a heel beatdown between Deonna and her entourage of Kimberly and Susan. And you had the returning Taylor Wilde, a TNA original, making the save, and she returned after the match. So I think maybe you will have like a tag team feud going forward between Deanna and her entourage versus Taylor and Tenille. Maybe Taylor will get a solo shot now she's made her return, but I want to see more of face Tenille, because despite her very heelish presentation recently, she showed in this match she can work as a face. She got the babyface save at the end by Taylor, and I just want to see more of face Tenille, because she brought something tonight that I didn't know she had, and I'm glad that she has it, and I want to see more of it. Main event hype package. I could not wait for this. Mauro came out for the main event, Don Callis was out first, and Omega was flanked by the Good Brothers. Swann had Eddie Edwards and Willie Mack, aka the second coming of Junkyard Dog, as his corner man. And it was a wise move, or at least I thought so, because I predicted that Kenny would win, but I predicted it wouldn't be so dominant. I predicted that, again, there would be a win, but it'd be one with heelish interference. So that is not what happened. Instead, you had Mauro adding his gravitas to the main event. You had Don Callis taking the ring announcer's mic, and I can't say I'm too mad here. His bias really added to the presentation. He was just so obnoxious and just really, really put over his personal relationship with Kenny Omega, his accolades. The ring announcer got his mic back for Swann's introduction, and Mauro put over the historic match and the date it took place, the 25th of April 2021. They etched that into memory, into the history books. And without further ado, the bell rang, and here we go. We had chain wrestling for a start. I didn't see that happening really. Kenny's not really known for his chain wrestling, but it was great. You had Rich and Kenny doing lots of quick chain wrestling for the first minute or so. Kenny had the early advantage with a shoulder block, and then just showed pure arrogance in walking across Swann's back after that shoulder block. Swann took control. He attempted his finisher early on, the Phoenix Splash, but he attempted it to the outside. Back inside, Rich dominated, but then Kenny raised his legs to counter a running splash and took back control. Kenny failed to hit the atomic drop on the rails on the outside, but then he launched Swann into the ropes, and a really nasty kind of selling on that neck. And that's a story going forward, really. Kenny really worked on the neck and the back of the head and the small of the back for most of this match, just really weakening down Swann's resolve. He had a buckle bomb again, working on the neck and the back. And yeah, Kenny's just systematically picking Rich apart here. His cockiness costed him as Swann fought back. Had a near fall and back and forth action. Had a Frankensteiner by Swann, which was pretty incredible from the top rope. Swann defended a powerbomb attempt and then hit another frog splash for the near fall. Trading strikes, and he had a near fall from Omega. V-trigger in the ropes as Swann was slumped on the bottom rope. You had the V-trigger, but Swann quickly escaped the One-Wing Angel. But as Kenny was trying to put Swann into the One-Wing Angel, he was tugging on the hair and really adding that extra dynamic, the just bullying arrogance from Kenny, which really added to this. had another enziguri, back of the head, hitting Swann on the back of the neck, and just the neck and the head and the small of the back had been worked on very much by Kenny in this match. Just pure clinical precision, dominance, and having a very strong game plan. People say that Kenny Omega can be a bit spammy, and whilst, you know, that can be the case with some V-triggers, at the same time, he does know how to work a body part and just tell that story. And the story was really about just domination and working on the back of the neck and the head and the small of the back, and just really kind of wearing down Swann, who, you know, uses the Phoenix Splash. And obviously if you miss a splash, that's going to hurt, especially if your neck and back and the back of your head have been worked on. You had another V-trigger, and you had a top rope electric chair attempt. They kind of screwed this spot up a little bit, in that you were meant to have like a diving schoolboy, but in essence Swann looked like he was falling off the ropes and then hit like a bit of a staggered diving schoolboy for a near fall. You had trading strikes, V-trigger, and 2 dragon suplexes by Kenny Omega. The third was prevented, and you had a desperation cutter from Swann. Swann then went for another cutter, but Hebner was down because Kenny Omega pushed Hebner into him, and he took the brunt of that second cutter. Referee Aubrey Edwards was in, and the commentary really put over the idea of, you know, will we have some biased officiating? That wasn't the case. Aubrey stopped Kenny using a steel chair and said no, she's going to call this right down the middle, and fair play, it really added to the match that you had Aubrey kind of showing decency and sportsmanship as a referee and not having that bias. And even Tony Khan, despite, you know, AEW being his company, you could see in the match with the crowd pan shots that Tony just popped when Rich had his near falls and had his bouts of strength and showed his resilience. And I liked the fact that Tony, being a fan of wrestling, was something that was portrayed in this. You know, for all he's been trying to do his Evil Empire promos that have been a little bit cringe on Impact so far, in this moment the fan side of Tony came out, and it really worked well for Rich to have someone rooting for the underdog, rooting for the good guy, rooting against Omega, the belt collector. You had another cutter from Swann for another near fall. V-trigger misses. You had a Michinoku driver from Swann. Swann is slow to go up for the Phoenix Splash low, and that story of just the wear and tear of the match on his back, on his neck, on the back of his head really was sold here. He misses the Phoenix Splash, and all that agony on the back and the neck and the back of the head really showed here. You had a V-trigger, electric chair into another dragon suplex. You had the Dre Driller, and how the hell did Swann kick out of that? I know it wasn't his finisher, but he's missed his own finisher. He's been hit with V-triggers. He's been hit with dragon suplexes. You know, really surprised me here. That resilience from Swann. Absolutely beautiful storytelling. We had 2 more V-triggers. The third actually missed because Swann collapsed as Omega was coming for that third V-trigger. Just absolutely amazing selling from Swann. Just such tenacity. Even though he's getting the crap beaten out of him, the heart that's on display here is beautiful. Edwards tries to rally Swann, and you got another V-trigger. Swann fights back with strikes. He countered a suplex from Omega, but but then again he misses a Phoenix Splash. That's 2 misses of a Phoenix Splash here, and you know, such tenacity from Swann. It's a shame that he didn't hit any Phoenix Splashes apart from that early one to the outside, but in another sense it also protects the Phoenix Splash as a move, so I can't be too mad about it really. You got another V-trigger, 1 Winged Angel, and Omega wins clean. The belt collector Kenny Omega adds 1 more world title to his Infinity Gauntlet, and I've just witnessed history. Thank you for staying with me as I talk you through just this monumental event that really picked up after the first hour and a half. Really, I would say that the last hour and a half, it was a tale of 2 pay-per-views, but the second half of the pay-per-view was absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what happens now with the belt collector Kenny Omega. Will he go forth into NWA and take on Nick Aldis, for example? That's my prediction. Let's see if I'm right. I'd like you to follow us on Facebook. We've got Off the Mat Facebook page. We've got our website, offthematwrestling.com, and just, yeah, really check out all our wonderful socials. And I've been Ushiku, and I'll be with you again soon for the next Impact Plus monthly event. Thank you very much.